Do you know what it's like to come home with goodness in your heart and cake in your hands, and leave with cropped hair and a blank stare? I didn't know. Until that night. I came back to the family home 3 days before my little sister's wedding. No one called me, by the way. Not one text, not one phone call. But I came anyway. Because damn it, I thought family wasn't about invitations. It's about participation. It's about warmth. It's about we're one blood. I had a box of handmade lavender cake with me. I spent 2 hours at the store picking out candles to make it look pretty. I even bought a dress not too dressy, but not a gray spot against the background of someone else's happiness. I wanted to be useful. I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to feel needed again just for a day. I drove up in the evening. There are ribbons and bows and twitchy lights from the windows, and in the house someone is yelling, someone is laughing, and everything seems alive, just not to me. Mother is kneading dough, not turning around. Father is shifting something in the boxes of presents. My sister's on the phone. I stand in the doorway like a mailman from another time, waiting for someone to say, "Oh, Jenna, you made it. You're too skinny," is the first thing my mom says without even looking up. The dress is hanging off the rack. I picked out another one. It matches your jewelry. I hope it doesn't stand out, she muttered. Well, hello, home sweet home. The next morning I made breakfast: fruit, coffee, scrambled eggs. No one asked for it. I just thought it was the right thing to do. Only the cup stayed full, and my sister ate a candy bar from her bag and left without looking at the table. I offered her a ride to the salon. I wanted to be a part of something. I'm already booked, she said without even looking. And by the way, with your bangs, don't you think you're stuck somewhere in 2007? And you're standing there with a cup of coffee that nobody drank, trying to figure out if you're serious or if I'm just dreaming. I didn't argue. I just washed the dishes and went out into the yard. The air smelled damp and something like burnt caramel. Perhaps the neighbors were roasting marshmallows. Or maybe it was me charring on the inside. Sitting on the porch with my legs pulled up to my chest. Just listening to the cheerful laughter coming from the window. Without me. Always without me. Native blood, you say? In the evening the guests came. Friends, neighbors, Mom's friends. They brought out old albums. I was standing by the table when my mom started showing pictures. Childhood, first grade, graduation. My sister in the center of each frame, all so dapper, dressed up. And when they got to my page, my mom just flipped through. Who's that? A woman asked, pointing at me in a photo of me with a college diploma. Oh, that's Jenna. We were having, well, a tough time back then, Mom said and smiled. Like I wasn't there. I was standing in the same room, in the same country, on the same planet, but as a shadow, like a curtain being pulled back. I couldn't sleep at night. Lying on the old mattress, I heard someone talking loudly, laughing. My hair, by the way, was neatly styled. Bangs are my thing. Yeah, I'm not a glossy model, but I had style, I had character. I had something of myself. I woke up with a strange sensation, like my face was tickling in a different way than usual. I touched my hair and realized something was wrong. I turned on the light. Short strands on the pillow. Hair. My hair. There were scissors on the floor. The same child's scissors used to cut ribbons at matinees. I went to the mirror. Where there had been bangs, there were now stumps sticking out. Crooked. Ripped. Like someone had done it on purpose, but in a hurry. I didn't scream. Just closed my eyes. Inhaled. And in that moment, for the first time, I felt more than just a stranger. I realized they were trying to erase me. Stupidly, quietly. So I wouldn't get in the way. So I wouldn't overshadow. To be the wrong person, to be the wrong person, to look in the wrong place. In the morning, no one even raised an eyebrow. My father said, "You must have hurt yourself in the night." Mom shrugged. Sister giggled. "Maybe you changed your mind about 2007 after all?" And I stood there looking at them and thinking, good, that's really good. I got it. After that, I went into the bathroom, shut the latch and just sat on the side of the tub. I didn't cry. My eyes were dry. Only there was something sharp in my throat, trying to figure out why. Why such a petty, sneaky trifle? I didn't come here to shine. I didn't rip the crown off my sister's head. I came here to be present, participate, as a guest, as a sister, as a human being. And they handed me a pair of scissors in my sleep and said, "It's your own fault." At breakfast, I tried to smooth things over again. I was thinking, I said. Maybe we could make bouquets for the guests. I have some lavender and ribbons left, and I can put them together today. Mom didn't take her eyes off the pot. It's already done. We have a florist. Dad was on his cell phone. You better sit down. It won't turn out right anyway. My sister ate half a piece of toast, got up and threw it down. That's true. You shouldn't impose your aesthetics here. Impose? You know what real impudence is? It's when you come in with a good thing and they kick you out for smelling your candles. I went to the garden. Quietly. No drama. I sat down among the roses, covered myself with a blanket to keep the sun out of my eyes and just looked up at the sky. It was so clear, unlike this family. And then something else happened. One of the guests, an old friend of my mom's, came up to me, leaned over and whispered, "You're good to be here." At least someone was still human. I almost cried. I wanted to hug her, but I just nodded. Do you know how ironic that is? The warmest moment I've had in days is from a stranger. Not from my sister. Not from a mother. Not from a father. From someone who doesn't have to. By the time I got back to my room, it was already dark. I turned on the small lamp by the bed. I looked at my box of dresses. It lay perfectly. I'd been ironing it for weeks, choosing each piece with soul. But now it felt like it wasn't mine anymore. Like it belonged to another woman, the one who didn't have her hair cut with scissors at her parents' house. I took off the earrings, put them on the tray. They were simple, but my grandmother had given them to me. The one who died before all these family shows started. She always said, "If a family makes you suffer, it's not a family. It's a cage." I didn't get it then. Now I understand to the bone. I went to bed. I slept badly. And all I dreamed was that I was standing alone in a photograph cut out of the frame. And no one even asks why. The next morning I woke up before anyone else. Very early. Put the kettle on the stove. Made myself a cup. Just me. Set the kitchen table, one appliance, one plate. I didn't try to be helpful anymore. Didn't offer to help. Didn't try to fit in. I sat down. Drank my tea. Ate half a banana. Looked out the window and smiled. Because for the first time in a while I felt free. It was the beginning. Not pretty. Not solemn. But it was real. Half an hour later my mom woke up. Walked past me in the kitchen, not paying the slightest attention to the fact that I was already sitting at the table, like I was a piece of furniture. Or a wall. She opened the fridge, grabbed a yogurt, and that was all she said. "We'll have to rearrange the garden table. The guests spilled something yesterday." I looked at her in silence. She didn't even notice that my hair was cut short. Or pretended not to notice. And that's worse. Dad came over later. He was in a good mood. I guess he was looking forward to the wedding reception. He took one look at my cup and said, "Aha, so you've had breakfast. Do you want to walk to the gas station? I need to get something for the generator there. In case the lights go out on the day of the wedding." I didn't answer. I just got up. I went to my room. I closed the door. On the bed was my notebook. An old one with notes, quotes, thoughts. I opened the first page. It said, "Be a light. Even if someone wants to snuff you out." And you know what? I wasn't going to be extinguished. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how it unfolded. The wedding morning was sticky not from the heat, but from the tension that hung in the air like a forgotten rag over the stove. I woke up early again. Not from the alarm clock, but from habit, to be ready for another accidental blow from my own family. I went down to the kitchen. Silence. Only the drips from the faucet and the rustle of newspapers under the door. I made myself breakfast again. Just me. Tea, a slice of the warmed pie I'd brought with me, though no one had tasted it. This time I didn't expect anyone to join me. I already knew my place. Against the wall. In the shadows. Mom showed up 20 minutes later, already wearing makeup and curlers, but with the same expression on her face like I was furniture. Or an old newspaper about to be thrown out. "Where are you going with that face?" she asked. "I'm not going anywhere. Just to the salon to clean up what you've ruined." "What did we ruin?" She paused, as if she'd heard something unusual. "Hair. At night. Scissors. Do you remember? Or did I imagine that too?" She turned away, sighed loudly, theatrically. "God, You're taking everything so personally again. We're about to get married, and it's like you're looking for a reason to make a big deal out of it. Maybe it's just nerves." I laughed. For the first time out loud. You know, the kind of laugh without the fun. "My nerves, Mom, are when they cut my hair in my own house while I'm sleeping. And the rest is just habit." I walked to the salon. 4 blocks. Not because I didn't have a car. I just didn't want to be cramped with my father, who still thought I was a cranky schoolgirl. I walked down the streets where I grew up, looking at the houses, and every turn reminded me how far I'd come, and how much I wanted to believe I could come back. The salon was on the corner, near the old bakery. Same sign, same smell of nail polish and coffee. A craftsman named Dana looked at me and knew right away. She didn't ask me anything, just pointed to the chair. "What are we doing, beautiful?" "Saving what's left," I said. "Relatives?" she asked, looking at my bangs. I nodded. She started working silently. Only after a couple minutes did she say, "People think hair is just hair. And then they cut it off like they're erasing a part of you. That's exactly how it feels." I looked at myself in the mirror. Not at my appearance, at my eyes. There were no tears there. But there was something far more dangerous, the calm of a woman who no longer had any illusions. When she was done, I looked different. Not as an invitee. Not as a sister. As someone who hadn't asked for a seat at the table. He just took it. I thanked her. I even tipped her more than I'd planned. Sometimes other people's hands heal better than words. On the way back, I stopped at a little shop and bought myself a new lipstick. A bright one. It didn't go with the dress, but it matched the mood. When I got home, my sister was there. Dress, hair, earrings, like she was on the cover of a catalog. Only her eyes were running and her hands were shaking. "Where have you been?" she asked sharply. "At the salon. You missed the rehearsal with the bridesmaids. Now the photographer has to rearrange everything. I'm not a bridesmaid, remember? That's what you decided." She frowned. "Don't start, Jenna. We have a big day." "You do," I corrected. "I'm just another chapter. But by the way, did you know someone cut my hair? Or do you think it's nerves too?" The sister fell silent. The pause lasted too long to be honest. "I don't know what you mean," she finally said. "Maybe you yourself. I mean, you've been doing some strange things." I almost laughed at that one. Because a prank is showing up at a wedding in red. Not waking up with scissors on your pillow. "You don't have to love me," I said quietly. "But to humiliate me like this. It's not an accident, you know. It's a habit." My sister wanted to say something, but my mom came out of the house. "Girls, that's enough. Jenna, go get cleaned up. We start in an hour." I stood there, breathing in the air, and my insides weren't boiling anymore. It was cold. Cold and very clear. I went into the house. Slowly. Not because it was hard, but because every movement was now a decision. The wedding reception started late. Everyone was fussing, the waiters were running around with trays, the flowers were being adjusted every 10 minutes. I stood in the corner of the room, wearing a dress I made myself. No bright colors, but no gray mouse. Just a woman who wasn't trying to be liked anymore. No one approached, not even out of politeness. Those who used to nod in the streets now looked away. It was as if my appearance, or maybe my inner voice, had become too uncomfortable for this celebration of life. I walked over to the table where the name cards lay. My name wasn't there. Not on any chair. Not on any line. I pretended to look for it, even though I already knew the answer. "I'm sorry," the coordinator said. "Maybe you'd like to go to the buffet table. For guests not on the list. Not on the list. This is it. Even if you're blood from blood, you can be crossed off with a simple swipe of a pen." I got a glass of water, sat on the bench under the window, watched my sister walk down the hall glowing, my mother ironing the tablecloth, her father kissing her hand, and then toast to our girl who has always been the center of the family. That's when I realized what it meant to be in the background. Not just in the background, but behind the glass, where you are seen but not recognized. An old family friend sat next to me. "No offense, Jenna. It's just, this day isn't about you." I nodded. "Who said I wanted it to be about me?" He stopped talking, and I got up and walked away. Not loudly, not defiantly, just quietly, because sometimes silence speaks louder than any scandal. When the toasts began, I wasn't called again. One by one, family friends, mother's friends, neighbors stood up with reminders of what a bright child grew up in our family. Each called Mom and Dad a model of love. Each thanked my sister for how sunny and generous she was. I sat in the farthest corner. And I ate. Not from a plate, no. I ate reality. Piece by piece. I swallowed it, even if it was bitter. And then my mom took the microphone. You know, we have 2 daughters. But today we're especially proud of the one who never let us down. The one who's always there for us. Who is our joy? Silence. And then applause. No one mentioned me. Not even in passing. Not even as background. In that moment I didn't feel resentment. I felt clarity. Sharp as a blade, the moment when you finally stop hoping. Because hope is a luxury. And all I had left was a decision. Later, when everyone started dancing, I walked over to the mirror in the lobby. I looked at myself. Not a drop of makeup. Hair as straight as I could restore it. Eyes alien. But strong. Not because I won. But because I survived. I walked past my sister. She was busy discussing something with her girlfriend. I just walked by. And for the first time I felt no guilt, no desire to explain myself. It was the beginning of the end. But then I didn't know what had begun. Late in the evening, when the hall was starting to empty, I went outside. I sat on a bench near the path where the petals had been laid in the morning. Where my sister was walking by, glowing as if this scene was scripted. And I was just an extra. I took off my shoes. I put my feet up. And I sat in complete silence, listening to my insides subside. The pain subsides. The hurt turned to stone. And only one voice remained clear. You've seen it. Now decide what to do about it. Dad came outside. He looked at me in silence. For a long time. Then he said, "You look tired." "I'm not tired," I replied. "I just don't pretend anymore." He wanted to say something else. But he couldn't find the words. So he left. And I stayed. Alone. But, it was better than sitting among those who are around but can't see you. I realized I wasn't lost in this family. I haven't been here for a long time. I just hadn't noticed before. I stood up. Slowly. Picked up my shoes. I walked past the hall where the music was still playing. No one noticed. No eyes lingered on me. No voice called my name. And I kind of liked it. Because from that moment on, I belonged to myself. Not their lists. Not their memories. Not their expectations. And if they thought this story was going to end, they just haven't read my last chapter yet. This is the climax. Everything you've been waiting for is right here. Stay to see the hero put everyone in their place. The morning after the wedding was unusually quiet. Too quiet. No voices, no bells, no stomping of heels on the stairs. Only the slight creak of old doors, as if even the house was tired of pretending. I woke up early out of habit, but this time I took my time. I lay under the blanket, staring at the ceiling, as if it could give me an answer. Why did I put up with all this? Why had I come back at all? My dress was hanging on the door, so neat like it hadn't even been through the play. The lipstick, the brightly colored one, was on the dressing table. I looked at it and suddenly realized it wasn't just makeup. It was armor. I got up. Shower. Cold water. Clean shirt. And a straight back. I wasn't going to be inconspicuous today. I wasn't going to adjust, I wasn't going to be quiet. When I went into the kitchen, my father was already sitting there. Newspaper coffee like everything was fine. He looked up for a second, then stared at the headlines again. "Morning," he mumbled. "Morning," I replied. "How much is silence worth?" He looked over his glasses. "What?" I said, "How much does it cost to walk by, knowing something had been done to your daughter, and not ask once?" He didn't say anything. He just sighed. And then he got up and walked away. Because apparently the answer was too expensive. I was about to finish my coffee when there was a quiet knock in the hallway. Slow, hesitant. I opened the door, and sure enough it was her. My little sister. The one for whom this whole parade had been about. The one who couldn't even find a chair card for me. She was holding a box. My box. The dress I'd left in the room. The dress was lying flat, but on top of it was a photograph. A plain one printed on glossy paper. It was of me. Sitting by the window during the banquet. In the shade. No signature, no decorations. Just me. You? She began and stopped talking. I am, I answered. Now what? I wanted to apologize. I guess. I don't know how. I didn't think. I didn't mean to, she stammered, looking away. You didn't want me there, I finished for her. It's obvious. You all didn't want to. She nodded. And this was unexpected. You always seemed so strong. Independent. Yours. And I've always been, the one who needed approval. I just wanted everyone to look at me. Just once. And to do that, you had to cut me out of the painting? She sat down on the chair, took the picture, turned it toward her. I stared at that picture all night. It wasn't until this morning that I realized it was you, and what you look like. I didn't say anything. I just let her sit in silence. Because sometimes words aren't necessary. Let the silence work. I don't want you to go, she said suddenly. I'm already gone. You just haven't noticed yet, I replied calmly. She didn't say anything. The house felt as if the walls were listening too. As if the building itself was finally witnessing what had been hidden under the rug for decades. I really didn't think it had gotten this far, she murmured. Because you've always been protected. And I've been hidden. And when you hide something for a long time, it either dies or grows in the shadows. She lowered her head. Do you want me to talk to Mom? No, I said sharply. I don't want you to fix anything. You're not the one who broke it. It's the system. A house that loves on a schedule. Where one child is a showcase and the other is a warehouse. I just don't want to be a part of this play anymore. What do you want? I looked at her. Straight for the first time. No anger. No pain. I want to breathe. Not to wake up in fear. Not to catch stares. Not have to explain why I'm in pain. She nodded. Quietly. Respectfully. No falseness. Then I will be quiet. And listen. If you let me. It wasn't peace. It was something more, a pause. A thin crack in the concrete of the old system. Come back tomorrow. No box. No pictures. Just as a person. And we'll talk. If you're ready to listen for real. She stood up. All she said was, thank you for not kicking me out. I didn't answer. I just closed the door. Slowly. Calmly. And that's when something inside me just clicked into place. Mom came into the kitchen half an hour later. No knocking, no may I as always. Just opened the door like she had the whole world under her control. I heard she came by. Amazing, huh? People still remember the way to this house. She ignored the tone. Sat down at the table slowly, as if contemplating how to start a dialogue. Or how to make sure it didn't turn into an accusation. Spoiler late. I wasn't always sure what the right thing to do was either. I didn't have an example. You had me, Mom. Every day. All these years. I was the example. You just didn't look up to it. She tensed up. It's not fair. I was trying. No, you were being convenient. Trying is when you notice both daughters. It's not putting one out there and pushing the other one away. You were difficult. Too independent. You argued all the time. And for that I get a pair of scissors in my pillow? She recoiled. Silently. No attempt to defend herself. I don't know who did it. No, you don't. You don't know. Because you don't care. Because it's easier not to know. She stopped talking. What do you want from me? Do you? I wanted you to say, I see you. To look beyond how you look for once to how I live my life. Silence. Tight like a door that hasn't been opened in years. Jenna. Don't. I'm not looking for sympathy. I've already found a voice. Me. I don't need the rest. I'm up. Slowly. With the cup. If you ever want to know what's left in me, come not as a mother, but as a human being. And I walked out. Out the door. But not out of the house. Out of the script. And finally out of the role. I didn't leave the house that day. I stayed. But in a different way. Like someone flipped a switch in my head. No more asking. No more waiting. No more begging. I just was. And that was enough. I made myself some herbal tea. No sugar. No company. I sat in the garden, under the tree where I'd read books as a child. I remembered every crack in the bark, every curve of the roots. There, under that tree, I had once dreamed of being an artist. Then an actress. Then just free. I pulled out my notebook. The one I'd been writing in since I was a teenager. The first page was wrinkled, but the phrase still read, "Be a light. Even if someone wants to snuff you out." I wrote underneath it, "Light doesn't ask permission. It just shines." Then I stood up, walked into the house, went into my old room, which had long ago become a warehouse of unneeded things, took out the boxes, everything that wasn't mine into the hallway. Everything that wasn't mine I put away neatly. I didn't wait for a reaction. I just did what I should have done a long time ago. I was reclaiming my space. In the kitchen, a to-do list hung on the refrigerator. Who cooked what, who cleaned what. I picked up a pen. I wrote, "Jenna is cooking her life away." And I dotted it. Dad didn't say anything again. Just looked at me in the doorway. For a long time. Not judgmental. With a kind of incomprehension. As if seeing for the first time that I wasn't a guest. Not an extra function. Person with a choice. I nodded. He did too. And that was enough. 2 days later I packed my bags. Not much. Only what was really mine. I left the rest. Not out of resentment. Out of respect for myself. I didn't wear other people's things anymore. No one made a scene when we said goodbye. No hugs. No begging to stay. And that was a relief. I left the house as a grown woman, not as a daughter who always had to be looked after. On the train back, I sat by the window, watching what used to be called home go by. Now it's just a stop. On my lap was the same notebook. I turned the page. I wrote, "No one has the right to cut you out of your own life. Not even those who called you their child." And right there I smiled for the first time. Not out of bitterness. Not out of spite. But because it was the truth. I didn't know what would happen next. But I knew one thing for sure. From now on I wasn't going to let anyone tell me where to sit. I'm not a card at a wedding. I'm the voice. I am the center. I'm whole. And if they want to come back, they'll have to come into my house. By my rules. Because the scariest thing is not being cropped out of the picture. The scariest thing is cutting yourself out of your own memory. And I don't do that anymore. And if you've made it to the end with me, know this. Everyone has the right to reclaim their space. Even if no one applauds.